What's up, Bolt fam, and welcome back to the God of Thunder podcast. And thank you for choosing to join me again on this Super Bowl week. If you're a loyal subscriber, as always, I appreciate you. And if you're a new viewer and a Charger fan, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, as well as let me know how long you've been a Charger fan, and then who your favorite player is, as well as where you're watching from. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on, and we've had a lot go on since then. So today I'm going to be discussing a couple of those events that went on, my big takeaways from the Jim Harbaugh press conference, the Joe HORTIZ press conference, and also his official hiring, what I think he's going to bring to the table. We also got the hiring of Jesse Minter, and as well as our new OC, Greg Roman, who I know a lot of people aren't happy about, but we'll discuss that later. So let's jump right into the Jim Harbaugh presser. Was our first real introduction into Jim Harbaugh, who he is, and what he's bringing to the Los Angeles Chargers. We know he's a man of faith, family, and football, but we heard he was kind of quirky too, right? And I think we kind of seen that during the press conference, which is something that I can relate to, especially if you talk to my two daughters. But it was good to hear from him and the vision that he has for the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, let's get this out of the way. He talked about Lombardis, and he talked about not just one, but he talked about winning multiple championships and bringing multiple championships to this organization. Now, this is refreshing to hear from our head coach, but it obviously raises expectations with the absolute win now mentality. We know we're in a tough division with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, with Sean Payton, but we're also in a loaded AFC conference with teams that have great quarterbacks in Joe Burrow, in Josh Allen, and Aaron Rodgers over there with the Jets. I mean, we have also CJ Stroud, who's coming up with the Texans. So the AFC is completely open, but it is also very, very competitive and something that, it's going to be tough to win in. So, with that being said, if Jim Harbaugh believes in Justin Herbert and this ownership, this organization as a whole, and its ability to accomplish these goals, I mean, I'm all in as a Charger fan, and this isn't something we're accustomed to as Chargers fans. We always get hyped up from the media preseason, right, on how we're gonna go to the Super Bowl or we're Super Bowl contenders based off of our uh, off-season moves. But I think this is the most confidence I've had in this team and organization since the LT days, since the Philip River days and Antonio Gate days, where we had an offense that could basically do whatever we wanted because LT was running the ball so great. And we had defense with players like Sean Merriman and Phillips and just Quentin Jammer and players like that. So the moves that they made, that have been made by this organization, are organizational altering moves and are definitely in the best interest of this franchise, in this team that I think have that potential to win not only one but multiple championships. He also talked about the most important players on the football field, and that is obviously Justin Herbert. We know the quarterback touches the ball every single snap on offense, so it's pretty apparent why he is the most important player on the field. And as you're listening to Jim Harbaugh talk, I think we all try to read in between the lines to figure out like who he's going to keep on this roster and what our draft is going to look like, and exactly what way he's leaning. And we've had discussions on the possibility of a Brock Bowers or a Neighbors or maybe even Marvin Harrison Jr. if he drops in the draft. But after listening to Jim Harbaugh, it seems to me that he's going to try and establish an identity in the trenches, right? And it looks more and more like the Chargers are going to go trench heavy in this year's draft. Like, to me, it looks like it's going to be a possible Joe Alt in the first round with our fifth pick if we don't have that ability to trade back, which would shore up the right side of the offensive line and afford Justin more protection, more time to throw the football, and then offer a boost in the run game, which was another emphasis in Jim Harbaugh's press conference. I know there's been plenty of people who want that sexy pick, that sexy position, skill player in the first round. But I think if you look at last year's draft, with all the players that went in the later round, there were plenty of contributors as far as receivers and tight ends go that were picked up. So, I mean, I don't think this draft is as deep tight end wise, but there's always that possibility of finding a jewel in the later rounds. So don't get too disappointed if Jim and Joe, or excuse me, if Jim and Joe HORTIZ go that way and pick an offensive line, because there's like limitless potential in the later rounds, and I think Jim Harbaugh, by the way, is probably the most qualified coach in the NFL this season at identifying some of those players, because he just coached for the past 7 years, however many years it's been in college football, and has been scouting these high school players, has been putting these players on these teams, has been playing against them, has coached them. So if there's anyone more capable of making a decision or swaying or picking one of those late round picks, I think it's Jim Harbaugh, which is going to be a huge benefit for the Chargers, because as you know, we're in a reboot of a roster build with being top heavy with Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and some other players. So it's definitely going to be needed for this year's draft and as well as drafts moving forward. All right, let's talk Joe HORTIZ. Um, to me, this has to be one of the best pickups of the offseason, and that's saying a lot considering we just hired Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter, right? The dude has over 20 years of experience in scouting personnel, being an assistant GM, among other things he's done with an organization in the Baltimore Ravens who have been as consistent as a football organization in the NFL comes. I mean, he has helped stack and develop and build a roster of players who have that dog mentality, because we just seen them play, and that defense of the Baltimore Ravens, all of those players had that dog mentality. He helped draft Kyle Hamilton. I mean, he traded for, I think it was Queen, and I mean that defense is like the stereotypical Ravens defense that you want. So getting Joe HORTIZ from an organization like the Baltimore Ravens is going to be beneficial to the Chargers and is also going to help develop this new culture with the Los Angeles Chargers, with Jim Harbaugh coming, right? Because that's the main thing that I have always harped on when it comes to the Los Angeles Chargers, was the culture, was that from the top down, the ownership down to the coaches that they hired, they were unable to establish a real culture of an organization that was just winning was all that mattered, and the toughness that Jim Harbaugh and Joe HORTIZ want to bring to this organization is going to be very, very new to all of us, right? Jim Harbaugh did say, and both Joe HORTIZ and Jim Harbaugh did say, don't let the powder blues fool you, baby, because this new mentality of the Los Angeles Chargers and of the players is going to be drastically different. There is no finesse team here. We are going to be a running football team that plays tough with tough players and lets people know that they played us, right? And that's coming from both Jim and Joe HORTIZ. But we just got done with 10 years of coupon Tom and a lack of trades and good draft picks in the middle to later rounds. Now, I think all of that is about to change with Joe HORTIZ. He's already expressed his willingness to trade for players that will make the team better now. And that's something that we're obviously not accustomed to. And it's good to hear from a man that's leading the charge, no pun intended. And it goes for both the draft and in-season trades, which he hinted at during his presser, saying that you have to be prepared to pick at 5 if the phone doesn't ring. Now, this to me is the best outcome for the Chargers as far as the draft goes. Listening to trades at 5 to move back and acquire draft capital to really start to build the roster that both HORTIZ and Harbaugh envision, right? Because at the end of the day, we are all in. The Spanos family is all in on Harbaugh. If it doesn't work out with Harbaugh, I don't think it ever will. But to be honest, I have complete faith in these guys, and I'm super excited to see how this all plays out because this was an organizational restructure. Um, in terms of the administration that we just hired. Complete organizational restructure, which was absolutely necessary for the Chargers. And I'm just so happy it happened. Like I said, give a quick shout out to Dean Spanos and his son, John Spanos, who decided to pull the trigger on all of these moves. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. And it's really coming to fruition based off of the additional hires that they made on the defensive side and offensive side, which we'll jump right into real quick with Jesse Minter. So after officially hiring Joe HORTIZ, we got the word that Jesse Minter is indeed following Jim Harbaugh and will be the defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. This guy has been one of the best coaches in the college football, right? He had one of the best ranked defenses in college football last year and helped lead the Michigan Wolverines to that national championship. He has experience in not only college football, but also the pros with the Baltimore Ravens. And for the Ravens, he had 4 years, I think, as a secondary coach and whatnot. But his coaching did contribute to two division titles and, the AFC North, which is a super hard division with the Baltimore Ravens, Steelers, the Cleveland Browns, and the Bengals. So it's not an easy division to win because all those are those blue chip organizations who are always good and always have had that good foundation to where they're always competing every year, minus the Cleveland Browns, and then minus the Bengals before Joe Burrow. So part of the reason I like this pickup so much was because of where he came from, right? We could go over all his stats and what he did in college football. We could go over how well he coached, but the bottom line to me is it's where he came from. Now, obviously, I already mentioned that Ortiz came from a great organization in the Baltimore Ravens, but so was Minter. And I think that when you're attached to an organization like that, it imprints you as a coach. It gives you an identity as a coach and how you want to coach, how you want your players to play, and what you want that to look like. And it has followed him from coaching with the Ravens to coaching as a DC with Vanderbilt, and his best showing yet as DC with the Michigan Wolverines last year. We have a real defensive coordinator on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, and it is not a joke. And I think that we I think he's going to be the defensive coordinator that we wanted Brandon Staley to be for the Chargers defense, and he's just in a different realm. He's young, he's bright, and he's got the support of Jim Harbaugh, which I think is going to be huge when he's making these play calls. And I think we're going to have a real successful start on defense. Now, like I said, there's a lot of moves on defense that we have to make in order to fulfill the type of defense he wants to run. Even though Joe Ortiz had said during his press conference that the makeup of what our defense looks like right now is similar to the makeup that Jesse Minter or the defense that he wants to run, and even the defense that they ran in with the Ravens, which is, you want two really good edge rushers. You want linebackers play a more critical role in the component of defense when it comes to the Ravens defense, as you've seen Patrick Queen and the other linebacker that they have. I can't remember his name right now. So I think that's maybe a bigger move that's going to be going under the radar this offseason and even in the draft. But I think shoring up those linebackers, and I do think Kyler Murray has it in him to be that dog linebacker. Like we've seen what he's able to do in stopping the run game, which is huge. And when he got that green dot on his head, he did make a difference when Eric Kendricks was out. So I expect Kyler Murray hopefully to come back. I know a lot of people don't like him because he does make some mistakes in pass coverage, but I think that that's something that he could be coached into because he has everything you want in the linebacker. He has the size, he has the height, he has the speed, he has the toughness, and I think that's what Jesse Minter and Coach Harbaugh are going to be looking for. So I would not be surprised if he does come back. All right, now let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about, right? Um, what uh, um, let's talk Greg Roman. I hear the moans and groans through the screen right now, and I feel like a lot of us were disappointed. This was the last pick we all wanted to see the Chargers make, right? But I'm going to argue that that lack of interest in Greg Roman is recency biased and just based off of his last year with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. So check it out. Lamar Jackson is a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but he is not Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is a better pocket passer. He's more accurate and he has the better ability to throw outside of the pocket. Greg Roman has never had a QB like Justin Herbert. And I think that next year we're going to see Justin Herbert benefit from the fact that Greg Roman has had one of the most dominant run games in each of his seasons as an OC. He's had his team's top 10 in rushing touchdowns 7 out of the 10 seasons as an OC. So I say that to say this. Both Justin Herbert and Greg Roman are going to benefit from each other. The run game that Greg Roman will provide for Justin Herbert is going to be the best he has ever seen. Can you imagine what Justin Herbert could do with a productive run game? Like, seriously, we haven't seen what that looks like since Justin Herbert has been our quarterback. The run game is going to be obviously one of the key components in Jim Harbaugh's offense that he wants to run. And the run game is going to open up the play action, right? Just like Jim Harbaugh said, provide more time for him to throw and also benefit our defense by keeping them off the field and draining the clock. So, what Greg Roman brings to the Chargers is one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL. If you look, his stats say that, and that's something that the Chargers haven't had in years. So, what he lacks in probably his pass game development or ability to call plays, I think that's where Jim Harbaugh is going to come in and supplement that, and he's going to make the difference. And then also Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert could throw the rock. He could throw the freaking football all the way from his rookie season to up until before he got injured. He was slinging that thing. I mean, if you look at the Vikings game this past season, what do you have? 4 touchdowns, over 400 yards. He's had multiple good games. We have the trust. Everyone knows he could throw the ball. We just need to have a run game to open everything up. And I think that Greg Roman is going to provide that for Justin Herbert and for this Chargers football team. So don't be too disappointed. And Greg Roman is for the first time going to have a top 5 passer, right? Like I was just saying. And his offense is going to work well. I truly believe that because Justin Herbert has a high IQ. He doesn't make many mistakes, and he'll get the football to the receivers that the football or the play design is intended to. So I think that this relationship is going to be amazing, and I believe we should have a top 10 offense next season, regardless of Mike Williams being on the team or not, and whoever our tight end is. So more to follow on that. Okay, finally, I wanted to address something that a lot of people are talking about right now because I think one of Jim Harbaugh's old teammates and one of the old Chargers quarterbacks, Ryan Leaf, had stated, I think on Good Morning Football, that Jim Harbaugh really wanted Saquon Barkley. Right, so Saquon Barkley is a free agent. He just came off the franchise tag. He's one of the best running backs in the league, no doubt about it. But I think that like we have to ask ourselves, is this realistic? And when you ask yourself if it's realistic, you have to look at the cap number. And right now we're $44 million over the cap. We have 4 players with over $30 million that are going to affect the cap. And we don't know if we're going to keep them. We don't know if we're going to cut them. We don't know if we're going to trade them or restructure them. If we cut all 4 of those players, I think it would save us over 60 something $1 million. And we could wipe our hands clean and just be done with it. And the Saquon Barkley pickup in free agency would be more realistic. But based off of Jim Harbaugh's talk, based off of Joe Hortiz's talk, I think that Keenan Allen is definitely going to be in the future uh, in the future plans of the Los Angeles Chargers, and he deserves it, right? He's been one of the most consistent Chargers on our team. He's been there year in and year out and provided the numbers, and would have had an all-time season this year if he never would have got injured with that heel injury. But then you look at Joey Bosa, who is a younger um, edge rusher who I think Jim Harbaugh really likes, right? I mean, he's a dog. He does get injured a lot, and he's a little bit of a crybaby. But I mean, would you rather have Joey Bosa on your team or not? Like, is he going to make your team better? If he's healthy, he is going to make your team better, and that's where the injury concerns come into play. So if you just really, really have to look at the moves that they're going to make, because I think it's better that we address the running back position in the draft. I mean, we have one running back on our roster moving into next year, um, which is Isaiah Spiller, and we haven't seen much of. When we did see him, I thought he ran pretty well. I don't know why he didn't get more playing time this year, especially in the latter part of the season when we knew our season was over. He's one of the bigger running backs that we had in our backfield, and he had that real stop go quickness that I really love to see. But for whatever reason, um, which I don't know, he did not get enough playing time. So maybe during this offseason, we see that he is developed and he is a better running back than what the previous administration thought, our previous coaching staff thought, and he does get playing time, and maybe he's our RB1. But I think moving forward, the Saquon Barkley to the Los Angeles Chargers is a good thought, a good rumor. Would be fantastic for the Chargers to help establish that run game, but to me is not realistic just based off of our situation right now. So don't get your hopes up too much. I think we're more likely to address that in the draft, especially based off of Jim Harbaugh's track record when it comes to drafting. I think when he was with the 49ers, he drafted a running back in the middle rounds each of his 4 seasons that he coached with the 49ers. So I would look more towards that route than actually picking up Saquon Barkley. But with that being said, if you guys stuck around this far into the video, thank you. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And be sure to let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with me and why. I'm always shooting to get better. And with your help, I definitely can. So if you have any constructive criticism, go ahead and let me know. But that is all I got for you today. This is the God of Thunder podcast. And as always, bolt up, baby. I